Welcome to tonight's transmission of the Ministry of Assumption Absolute. My name is Lucien Francois Mateo St. James, and I'm here to encourage you in knowing with empowered conviction the truth of your transcendent divinity. I thank you for co-creating this moment with me. So life is a lot easier when people like you, when you can walk around and generally be able to get around because you know and feel you're accepted. And that will be the topic point of tonight's transmission, brought to you by and courtesy of always the Electric Temple. And the ministry, so I've actually had a series of businesses and different experimentations in how I want to serve here during my time incarnated as divinity, because I'm the all that is, you are the all that is, I'm God, you're God, everything here is made of God, being the ultimate, the total, the absolute source consciousness, and you are an individualized expression of that. And I've gone through many different experimentations and phases, and I've landed here because this is the most expansive. Because what I was cycling through was different. That was the business advice I got until I was like, oh God, business advice is not what I need. But I was cycling through like different niches or different ways of talking about what I do. And that just that truly wasn't working. So the ministry is really like the culmination of, I've been on a spiritual journey. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. So you could say I've been on a spiritual journey as long as I've been here in samsara, as many lives as I've had here, and it's quite a many. I've been on a spiritual journey, but consciously, actively pursuing spiritual themes, and the seeker realizes it was you all along. You were the man in the mirror you were looking for. The last 10 years. So the ministry really is a culmination of all of that. And so many of these lessons I actually was learning prior to having any knowledge of the fact that there is a basis for the fact that the world works based on laws. There are laws in effect here. And if you're not familiar with the laws that are in effect, you're going to be living out of harmony with yourself and with the way things are. And you're going to be reaching and grasping and striving and wanting and wondering why did my life end up this way? Why am I going through a midlife crisis? Why am I married to this person? Why do I have these kids? Why do I have this job? Who let me roam the streets by myself and make all of these decisions? So when you have knowledge of the laws, and all of the laws correspond to each other, this is the ministry of assumption absolute. It is my position that your assumption is the absolute, that the assumption is the absolute, but the law of assumption is one piece of a whole system of probably a whole constellation that we'll never have full knowledge of, but there are postulations, and you get Neville Goddard all the way up to Billy Carson, and the different teachers that have put it together for all of us. And I'm a part of that landscape, and you're a part of that landscape. And the more people that we I was going to say the more people that we wake up, but we wake up people simply by being awake ourselves. And I hate the whole awake versus asleep type of thing, because I don't really think that we're ever asleep, but I do think that there is a type of amnesia that happens. And I really like the forgetting and remembrance type of way of communicating that versus asleep and awake. But it all works. It depends on, what language that you like. But one of the lessons that I learned in my early 20s that, again, I wasn't working with any particular laws. It happened to just be very accidental, was people, I grew up in home environment, wasn't super, I wasn't well received there, I guess. And school was no different because, as we're getting programmed in childhood with the ideas our parents have about ourselves and the world, the ideas that your parents have about you are the ideas that you have about you, unless you've gone back to intentionally examine those and, reprogram, deprogram, diagnose and remove that disease. I'm a spiritual epidemiologist, so that's my perspective of what needs to happen. But So what we learn in childhood immediately then gets mirrored. And plus, I believe, you've got past lives and other stuff happening too. So it's not just what's happening in that moment, but, the collection of what you have embedded in your individualized expression of God in your individual awareness. But we're getting programmed with that by the television, by our parents, and then we immediately see that in school systems or whatever the next social landscape is that you encounter as a child. Like there's a 1-to-1 ratio. The child that is experiencing emotional abuse at home, they're either the bully or the victim. Pretty well much. Like those are probably not going to be your popular children. The popular kids, I spend some time around them, they tend to be the neglected ones, which is a type of abuse. At least in my experience, though, I don't see that they're the ones that are confident or that are outgoing and that are, doing many sports and have, sometimes, obviously there's exceptions like that. Somebody's going to be like, well, my friend Sally, there's exceptions to every rule. But what I'm saying is that, what we are indoctrinated with and what we're programmed with at home immediately then becomes our social environment. And then that social environment, by the time we leave the social environment, so typically in an American context, I'm talking about school, we leave that social context, whether you leave it at 10 years old or you leave it at 18, you then have collected what you believe the ideas are about yourself, about what you're worth based on how other people have responded to you, when really that was just like a mirror on top of 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 a mirror. And because you were a child and unconscious, you had no idea what was being reflected off of you and then being told you are. So all of that obviously carried the way that I'm speaking here. And I left the house, and at 18, I was just like, I don't enjoy the whole experiencing racism thing all the time. I don't enjoy the whole homophobic thing, it's like, this is not very fun. I don't like it. So I just decided to stop agreeing with it. Now, that for me happened over a series of years, essentially. It's not that I chose those ideas, but as those ideas were reflected at me, I then accumulated them and believed that they were my truth. So if you want people to like you, you want to be able to get around in the world, be able to talk to people. Now, you shouldn't be here's the thing, is that you definitely shouldn't be basing your idea of yourself on what other people have to say, because one, they're just mirroring you back to you. But two, if you do that, you've now removed yourself from the equation and said, they're my God, they're the power, they're the determinant, and I'm waiting on the determinant. I'm waiting on the effect to tell me what type of cause I am. And that will never work out. You will continue seeing yourself in separation. You will continue seeing yourself in lack. You will continue you'll be that person that even if somebody gives you a compliment, it will be hard, which I've been there. It will be hard for you to accept that because they're mirroring something back at you that you don't necessarily believe yourself. So, and that's the same, that goes for all of this, is that you don't want to base your sense of identity on the effect, because you are the cause of that effect. And if you don't know yourself, I don't mean believe yourself, I don't even mean trust. If you don't know yourself to be the cause, meaning if you don't know yourself to be the origin space of energetic awareness from whence that effect came from whence that effect arose, you're going to constantly be chasing the effect. You're going to be like the dog running with the tail. You're going to constantly be chasing your tail, not realizing that it's attached to you. So there really is nothing to chase. I like that one. That one makes a lot of sense. But I just decided that that was not working for me, the whole being disliked and everything. So there's a series of things that, I don't need to talk to you specifically about. There's a series of beliefs, on the thought basis. I mean, we're talking about the field. I'm always talking about the field that you're creating around you. And I think my last video, 2 videos ago, I discussed how you're not doing the manifesting. You are creating the field, which then manifests what you see in front of you. So you're not in charge of the how. You're not in charge of, what types of events need to take place in order for the thing or the event or the person or whatever it might be to manifest. But you are in charge of the field, and the field has to already be in possession of that thing. Take that to law of attraction. Like attracts like, or more simply put, or it's maybe not more simply, but it was more simply put for me, but that you'll only get what you already have. You'll only get what you already have. So that's, the law of attraction, and the law of assumption that corresponds with that in terms of okay, but the basis of what you have is built of your beliefs in which you really know to be true about yourself. And the only knowing, there's a variety of belief systems we can use to integrate that highest sense of self into our ego consciousness, but all of that starts with the knowing that I am God. All of that starts with, and this is what I did know at the time. But I did have, I don't even, that's what I'm saying, I don't even really know like how I kind of arrived at or came to this conclusion, but I really was just tired of it. So I just started acting like other people liked me. And that took a series of years, and it took a series of investigating my assumptions. At that point in time, I think I didn't even really understand them to be belief systems. I think I was like really into like self-esteem at that point in time, and the self-esteem obviously did require me to self-inquire and think about what I thought about myself. But later on into my early 20s, as I became a DJ, and then I had like a 5-year career as a radio host, and I like did really well as a radio host. I mean, that would definitely be like a second tier type of like there's definitely an alternative reality where I am just like hosting radio. But like, yeah, maybe not, because radio is so commercial nowadays. It's not about the music. It's about the money. It's about the advertisements. But I did a lot of live radio at the time, and I really, really loved that. And I didn't have any experience in radio. I had experience in music. I had, music history knowledge. Like I was knowledgeable in music, but I mean, my background was low self-esteem. I don't really like myself. And I got bullied at home and at school and all this other stuff. So what I did, how I rearranged my sense of self, like now I don't really, really care too much about what people think, but it's because of that. It's because like now I have really no fixation or attachment. I'm not like trying to get people to like me or anything one way or the other. I just am. I just speak. I just am. And it is just perfect for everything. It's like, I just am. People ask you, what do you do? I am. I exist. What's your title? I exist. I'm alive. I am. That's my title. I am. But yeah, I mean, even just like synthesizing down what I did, I worked on how I viewed myself. But more importantly, I mean, I could break down to you, I mean, maybe on an individual basis, if we were talking, I could break down to you like the specifics of what I did. But if I look at that really as a whole, I came to a new knowing of myself to where when I walked up to a group of people, I was able to seamlessly integrate myself. When I walked up to, I mean, just when I was available in any type of event, I no longer held the apprehensions of what if they think this, what if they think that, what if they don't think I'm cool enough. So I made sure to remain in the present moment, regardless of what was happening, regardless of what stimuli. Now, at this point in time, alcohol and substance use was in the mix. So, I mean, I think that had a lot to do with it as well in terms of that present momentness. I just really wasn't concerned about that. But after all of that, into recovery, which I don't, call myself as in recovery, but in the middle of my 20s, when I was assessing like what the hell was all of that, like how did I make that transition, I was able to pinpoint that I was in the moment, that I was unconcerned what people were thinking about me, and that I just decided that I'm liked. I mean, people like to like people that like themselves, because do you know how many flattened, dead, boring people there are in the world? It's like most people. Most people are afraid to have a personality. Most people are definitely afraid to exercise any eros or flame. And fine, maybe not all people are flame. Maybe not everybody needs to be flame. But I mean, I think this generation is terrified of sex. I won't even say sex, like sensuality, because I'm not talking about sex. I'm not talking about like parts rubbing. But this generation is fine. I'm not even talking about a specific generation. I mean, this generation of humans, like I'm not talking about millennials versus Gen Z or Gen X or anything like that. But I mean, like just this, I don't know, but when is that? I don't know. Everything's always been very puritanical, so I won't even get into that because that's a moot point. Postmodernism looks at the fact. I know postmodernism looks at the fact. It's like, when was it good? Well, the good old days. Well, when the fuck were the good old days? So there is no good old days to refer to. But fine, just for my observation, just terrified of sex, terrified. They put all this makeup on and use all these filters, and we're entering a new generation where men are obsessed with the gym again, but it's flattened. There's no liveliness, there's no sense of vitality there. But I'm going off on a different tangent. Like, why isn't the world beautiful anymore? Why is everything, you look at a millionaire's house and it's just, I mean, I don't know, it's all grayscale and robotic looking. Why did that happen? I won't talk about that. But yeah, I came into a new knowing of myself. A totally new knowing of myself. I just decided that I wasn't going to continue to tolerate a reality from myself where I was unliked. So people, if you like yourself and you have a knowing that I can walk around and I'm received. What we're talking about is like, am I received? Can I be received? Most people are so afraid that they're not received or that they won't be, or if they show their real selves. But here's the thing. I mean, this gets a lot easier when you realize you're just looking at different reflections of yourself anyway. So there's going to be reflections of yourself that maybe reject you or maybe judge you or maybe, don't vibe with your current presentation. Those people don't have to matter because they're just showing you back to you. They're showing your own awareness back to yourself. Now, I didn't know that at the time, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to be versed in all of this stuff. I just like made the decision that I'm liked, and that ended up turning into, a lucrative, like a small town basis. Like I was like small town. There's a song by Jimmy something. I can't think of his name. Jimmy something. But anyway, it's called Small Town Famous. It's a country song. God, Jimmy, anyway, it's like 2020, but yeah, it was like that. I was living my, small town radio station, bar hopping Midwestern dream for a little bit there in my early 20s. And that was like out of like total shyness, total rejection of the self, abuse, abandonment, no support, and I didn't even understand any of this. I just came into a new knowing of myself, and that created a field. So that new knowing had different thoughts. I stayed within the present moment. You have to have a relaxed nervous system. Now, that was aided at the time, but I did realize the power of that relaxed nervous system, of what it creates around you. Emotionally, I was not in a state of fear. I opened my field up to be received, and I was. So every new moment can be a new moment for you to establish a new field and begin receiving the perception of an entirely different world. But you cannot focus on the effect, and you cannot focus on the material, because the material is the very last thing, to manifest. And the material is a reflection of you. The material is a manifestation. It comes from whence. I just like saying that. It comes from whence? Your state of cause. And you are the state of cause. So if you want people to like you, if you want to be able to wield influence, if you want to be able to maneuver more so in social environments and be charismatic and be charming and be fun and be sexy, just start assuming that people respond to you that way. I do not mean enforcing that, though, because again, if you're trying to enforce something, you're saying that I'm not it. You're saying I need you to reflect it back at me. So this is just an innate knowing that you have. I was talking to a friend about this exercise, and it's the exercise is just to walk around for a day and just assume that everyone fucking loves you. Everyone's attracted to you. To get a bit delusional with it, it's like, oh, they looked away because I was just too beautiful, and they couldn't stand the heat. They couldn't stand the flame. Oh, are they talking to me longer? Yeah, well, that's because I'm just so wonderful to talk to you. I've got such a great personality. I mean, to just like really, and again, this is not about, because obviously you take that, and if you project it at other people, then that becomes a type of grandiosity, a type of narcissism, a type of God complex, which like, we are gods. But I mean, a type of complex that, really is born of fear and is lack and is of scarcity. If you need the effect out there, you're operating out of scarcity. So it's not about other people, but it's about like playing this internal game with yourself. She's like, you're crazy. That's ridiculous. But then she, texted me later. She's thinking about it. She's like, it kind of makes sense. I mean, it's a game just to see like how much better does that feel walking around thinking like, yeah, I'm it. It's me. It's me. I'm her. I'm she. I'm him. Or, in my case, I'm they. The fuck does that mean? I don't identify with any of it, so I can identify with all of it. But yeah, to play that game, to operate within the space of the field that you would like to see manifest, and that's the case for all things, because the material is going to be the very last thing that does, and the material is just going to be reflecting back at you, which you've already been. By the time the material gets here, yes, it will feel good. There will be heightened emotions, joy, love, abundance, peace, clarity. We're always talking about That's the state of the field that is conducive to your highest intention and wish fulfilled. And if you can cultivate that state on a consistent basis, you'll have everything you ever want, because that's the state of the I am. Now, again, obviously, then even in saying those things, I'm limiting the I am down to specific labels and vibrations. The I am is everything. The I am is total. The I am is already full and complete. If you can sit within that presence, that is when the stuff comes. I don't really teach people to get stuff, because the stuff will be a natural byproduct of who you are. I teach people that they're God. Well, I don't teach them. I help them remember. I didn't teach anything. You co-created this moment with me just to help you remember. But anyway, you want people to like you, assume that they already do. And don't fake it till you make it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about knowing, like, I am the field. What I decide, what I live, what I feel, what I think has no choice but to manifest, because everything that is comes from whence I am. So with that, signing off of tonight's transmission of the Ministry of Assumption Absolute, brought to you by and courtesy of the Electric Temple. Thank you for joining me tonight. Check out the Liberation Chronicle, which is the written word of this platform, and Dispatches from the Edge of Obvious. We're going to be doing an examination on the erotic design of your purpose and intention. How does eroticism play into guiding us to see more of ourselves, that sense of liveliness, vitality, felt sensation, and ongoing with that? So not necessarily sexuality. So if you want to know more about what I mean about that, concerning that, I will be talking about it more so in the ministry, but we're doing some more philosophical examinations within the podcast. So hit me there, and until next time, remember to be good to yourselves and others, because everybody's just a version of you anyway.